Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Josh. I am working on my donor vehicle today for the LS swap. So I've got an issue, what I think is with the dash. These things are notorious for having the stepper motors go out on the gauges. So I fire it up and I don't get a couple of readings, including the oil pressure. So what I'm doing today is just making sure everything's good with oil pressure on the engine. I'm going to pull the sensor out of the back of the motor and put in an adapter, which I've got right here. Got a little adapter fitting, and then your standard, inexpensive parts store oil pressure gauge, just so I can verify I've got pressure before I yank the motor out. So I've got a strong feeling that it's fine. Basically because I don't hear any weird ticking or anything come from the top end when I fire the thing off. It doesn't have cats, so it is pretty noisy. It's kind of hard to hear there, but it would be pretty noticeable clatter if it had zero oil pressure like the gauge is indicating. I mean, absolutely nothing showing up on there, but I have a strong feeling that it's just the stepper motor that's got a problem, because this particular era, the clusters they go out. My father-in-law's got a 2004 1500 heavy duty, and this is a 2500 heavy duty from 2006, but his half the gauges went away. So anyway, yeah, I fired up and then the oil pressure gauge just stayed there at zero, didn't even move or wiggle or anything. But you can see it's dirty and nasty. It rained today. There's no rear window, there's no side window or anything. This has been kind of exposed out throughout the winter, so either in the jolt from the wreck or the being exposed to the elements, I got a feeling that that's bad. But just to verify, I grabbed an inexpensive gauge. I'm just going to get plugged up here. So first thing, we'll be pulling that old sensor out of the motor, and then we'll get to threading this new one in and give it a test. Well, it took a little longer to get the sensor in than I had anticipated. So I tried to get to the back where the electronic sensor is that's for this truck, and I finally was able to get to it, but it takes a specialty socket. I was hoping that one of the deep half-inch drives that I got here would fit, but it takes a thin wall socket, and the thickness of the wall on there was just a little too much, so it wouldn't actually sit down on there. It wasn't really the depth of the connector sitting above it that was causing problems. It's like the wall thickness between the wrench flats on the sensor and then another piece next to it. It just couldn't get it. So what I was forced to do was go down to, there's a side oil tap that's off the side of the pump down there, and you can kind of see the plastic tubing from the cheap gauge I grabbed. But there's a plug down there. Takes an 8mm Allen, so I got to it with 2 extensions here and a wobble, because the pressure line from the power steering pump was in the way. It was a mess, and I was getting a little frustrated with it, so I didn't set the camera up next to it. But anyway, got that in, the adapter with that 1/8 inch NPT fitting on it, and got the standard little oil pressure gauge hooked up there. Got it hooked up here so I can see it through the windshield. That way I can verify we have pressure in the motor when I start it up here, and assuming this goes well, I'll be all happy and dandy and start ripping everything apart for the transplant. So there's some fog in here because it rained today, but I think that's set up on the gauge pretty well, at least well enough where you can test it for pressure. So see if I got enough battery left in this thing for it to fire off. Shut the fan off in here. All right, here we go. perfect. Got up almost to 50 pounds there on idle. Yes! So that was very satisfying. I'm super happy to verify that it was the stepper motor on the instrument cluster that was the culprit for showing no oil pressure on the dash. Like I said, whenever I fired this thing up before I bought it, the pressure was up there. I remember it was sitting at idle and looking good. And then when I had the truck dropped off a couple weeks later, fired up and I didn't see any oil pressure, so I shut it off almost immediately. I was like, ah, crap. But the needle didn't move at all, which is what made me think, okay, I know these things have stepper motors that go out. My father-in-law's got the same kind of truck. His went out. He had to have his cluster reworked to come back. Same thing, like the lights went out, the stepper motors were going out, so he had to have it reworked. So I know it's a known issue on this era truck, and I wasn't that concerned, but I wanted to verify. So yeah, just bought the adapter and the inexpensive oil pressure gauge just to make darn sure, because I didn't want to pull an engine out to try and do this quickie swap that I know I'm gonna have to like tear down and take to the machine shop. Wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world, but definitely feels good knowing that, yeah, we do have oil pressure, everything's okay. It's just the dash on this stinking thing. So yeah, next video I think I'll be doing the teardown of the front end. So I'm gonna try and sell this hood because it is actually not tweaked. Everything else here has a little bit to it. Like there's a little bit going on here that's got pushed over. Core support's got a little issue. Right fender's got an issue. Doors, I mean, this thing's got like a puncture in it, so it's not something someone's really gonna want. But yeah, I'm gonna take the front end apart, gently extract the radiator and core support. I'm actually going to modify this core support attached to the stock core support for the 85 and use the lower portion of this one to mount this radiator in that truck. And that way, if I do have an issue with this one down the road or something, I can just run to the parts store and say I need the radiator for a 2500 HD truck from 2006. Pop it right in. So yeah, I plan on reusing this fan shroud. It'll have all the factory radiator hoses for this truck and everything. I don't have to go, piecing parts together and everything. Found out that I can use the power steering pump for this hydro boost in my non-hydro boost truck application. I just cap off the return line on the upper side here. This exact hose will get capped off, and then I can reuse the hose here for the return of the hydro boost as part of the return setup on the power steering on that truck. So it's kind of a slick deal. I'm looking forward to showing how to do that. But yeah, we'll be getting into the teardown on this thing pretty soon. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'll catch you later.